Namaste everyone. Welcome to Wave Optics. We have seen diffraction in the previous class, right? We have seen how to analyze diffraction. We discussed it in the classroom video. So the bending of light around the narrow obstacles, thereby entering into the geometrical shadow, that is called diffraction. And light has the capability of bending, but only the thing is, if you want to see that bending effectively, the size of the obstacle must be comparable with the wavelength of light. You shouldn't, so you can't see the bending of light when the light comes out of your window, because window contains some metallic bars whose edges are very sharp, but that sharpness will not be enough to bend the light effectively so that we can see. So there you can't see the diffraction so easily. But if you have a very, very sharp object by the side of the light when it travels, it will definitely bend. We will see some pictures. So we will analyze everything today, what we have studied previously, and we will have a little bit of more things, that's all. Not much more things today. And also one problem, we did a small mistake in the previous interference problem, that also we will take it up. While dividing, we made a small mistake. Okay, the first of all, diffraction. So the CD appears colored, that is because of diffraction. This part of the CD where we record the data and access it in the using light signals. We put the data in the magnetic form here. This contains ups and downs. When the sunlight falls on this track, the tracks are so small, the ups and downs are so small that they can bend the light in different directions. So bending is not the same for all the colors, so that light appears colored. So this is not dispersion, it is diffraction. Similarly here, the spider web appears colored a little bit when it is viewed from sunlight. You can see the colors, little bit of colors here. So that is because of diffraction, because the thread of the spider web is so thin that it is in the order of wavelength of light. So it can be comparable, so the light bends. And bending is not the same for all the colors. Again, we get diffracted beam which contains different colors. And you see, suppose you hold your hand in front of the light and try to get the image of your hand on the wall. But the distance from the wall to your hand should be much, much larger. Otherwise, you can't see that. The bending, you should give enough length for the light to bend and form the blurred image. So the image or the shadow of the hands, when they are held against the sunlight, that light from the bulb, filament bulb, the edges of the shadow are not very sharp. Can you see the edge? That is blurred. Why it has happened so? Because the light has entered into the shadow. Shadow is not very sharp. Otherwise, if light was traveling exactly in straight line, it would have formed a very sharp edge shadow like this. But here we get some light encroaching into the shadow, that is diffraction. Similarly here, you can see the image or the shadow of the earth on the moon. This is eclipse time, and when the edge of the shadow, you see here, is blurred, some amount of light has entered in. You don't get suddenly darkness when you move from here to here. And light gradually decreases its intensity and becomes dark. And you can see a clear picture of the shadow of the moon on the earth. This is another eclipse, right? Shadow of the moon on the earth. Sun is here, the light from the sun falls on the earth, but in between we get moon in the straight line. So the shadow of the moon is on the earth. You see the shadow of the moon on the earth. Is it like a perfect circle? If the moon is a sphere, it should have been, of course, moon is a sphere, and the shadow should have been very sharp like this, but it is not sharp, because the edges, at the edges of the moon, the light will bend and it will form a blurred edge. That is also diffraction. Now, so for diffraction, what are the things needed? One obstacle, another source of light, and another screen. And accordingly, you have different types of diffraction. Two types especially. One is Fresnel and another Fraunhofer. In Fresnel diffraction, source and screen are at finite distance from the obstacle, and in Fraunhofer diffraction, infinite. That means you have to use a lens and make the rays of light parallel. But size of the obstacle must be comparable with the wavelength of light. This is how actually you see the diffraction. See, the diffraction pattern is taken in a photograph. This is actual photograph. Laser beam is made to fall on, pass through a very fine hole. If you drill a very fine hole in a metal sheet and allow the laser beam to pass through that, laser beam gets diffracted. This is the direct laser beam which is passing through the hole. It forms a bright spot here. Whereas you will get some bright spots on the other side also. You see here, less brighter spot, and this is called central maxima. Central maxima is the one which is found by the rays which move straight without any diffraction. This is a secondary maxima. So this maxima, this brightness of the secondary maximum is not as bright as the central one, because these are diffracted rays. If you can remember my explanation of the previous class, you may be remembering that when the light bends and goes away like this, so the slit, that hole is in front of you now. If you hold your hand in front of you, there is your hand in between your eyes and the screen, mobile screen or laptop screen, right? Suppose there is a hole in your hand, or if your hand is a metal sheet and there is a hole, light bends to this angle, right? It forms a less brighter image, much less brighter image. So compared to interference, here the central bright fringe is brightest, widest also, and the next brighter fringes are not as much brighter as the central fringe, because you know, we will study it today also, as the light bends, all the secondary waves starting from the slit will not meet constructively. Some of them will destructively meet, and so all the intensity will not be the, all the waves do not form the highest intensity as if they are formed here. So this is less brighter, less brighter. So this is minima, the dark place where all the waves destroy each other, crest falls on trough. And even in the central maxima, you observe, here it is brightest. Can you see? Bright, very bright. As you move away, the brightness goes on decreasing, 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 and becomes dark. Then again, brightness increases, increases like this. So if you draw a graph of intensity versus distance, you will find that the central maximum has bright highest intensity, then the intensity goes on decreasing. And finally, other maximas are not seen at all. Here also, so this is just a graphical, just a pictorial representation. This is actual photograph. This is simply picture. So here is the central maximum, and on either sides you have minimas, and the central maximum is formed by this, and we have many waves in between, right? Like this shown. Why this done like this? Because the central maximum is formed by the superposition of many secondary waves starting from the different parts of the slit. Each point of the slit will act like a source, and all those sources constructively interfere here and produce maximum intensity. And by the time you go away and away, all the waves do not meet constructively. That means all the waves do not meet with crest on crest. Okay, so the brightness is maximum. Suppose you are asked in the examination to write the diagram. Yeah, here is another one, another diagram. If the slit is like this, you will get the pattern like this. If the slit is a hole, you will get the pattern like this. You will have bright spot at the center, a dark ring, another bright ring, dark ring, and the brightness of the bright rings and away, and as you move away and away, goes on decreasing. You can see that. So this is diffraction in a single slit, what we say. So for diffraction, one slit is enough. For interference, two slits are needed, right? For interference is a superposition of two waves. Here it is a superposition of many waves coming from the different parts of the slit. Okay. Now, sir, if it is so, so when you observe a single beam of laser which is passing through a small hole, it appears like this. On the screen, the shadow will not be the single one. We don't see single light, we see multiple lights, because laser beam bends as it passes through the narrow hole. Now you can have a doubt like this. I will raise a doubt now. Suppose you are observing a very small object. For example, tip of a pin. Of course, tip of the pin will not emit its own light. Light from something else, like sunlight or light from a bulb in your room, must fall on the pin tip, and it should enter into the eyes later. First, it should fall on the tip of the pin. Tip of the pin should emit a light of its own again. In own means it receives the light from the bulb, and it then emits its light, reflects the light, and you see that light. When you see that light, won't diffraction occur at the tip of the pin? Yes, it occurs. Sir, if diffraction occurs at the tip of the pin, do you see many pins like this? One bright pin and a smaller, brighter pin, next very much less intensity, brighter pin. So we should be able to see multiple pins, right? So when you look into a very sharp object, you must be able to see many objects. Yeah, you can do this experiment in your room. It's a very interesting experiment. What you can do is, you see, What is the requirement of diffraction? You need one source, one obstacle, and another screen, correct? Now, why can't our eyelash, you know what is eyelash? The hairs in your eyes which protect the eyes from entering some other external objects entering into the eyes, right? We have eyelash, the hairs in the eyes, eyelid, right? At the end of the eyelid, we have hairs there, that is called, um, okay. Now, those hairs, it is not eyelash, something else it is called, I don't remember the name. So, see, those hairs are equally spaced. Do you know that? They are equally spaced. The distance between the two hairs in the eye, that is so small, and the gap is very small, right? When light enters your eyes, of course, you keep eyes open, and these the hairs in that eyelash, they don't disturb. But suppose you try to observe a bulb, tube light, or a tungsten filament bulb in your room. Switch on a bulb or a candle flame. Candle flame is the best choice. You look into that bulb just by closing your eyes and let the light enter through these hairs. When the light enters through these hairs, and you have to close, neither completely close your eyes nor completely open it, half open. That means light must enter through these hairs. When the light enters through these hairs, it diffracts. Sir, is the size of the hair and the gap between those hairs is so small? Yes, it's a very small gap. The gap between the two hairs in the eyelash, that acts like a slit, and when the light passes through that slit, it diffracts. Now, how many images you see? You see multiple bulbs. You can try this. Try to see the tube light, or try to see the bulb or candle flame through your eyelash by closing your eyes a little bit, so that light enters through the eyelash. That has, I don't know the exact name for it, and you may be knowing it because some people decorate those hairs with different colors. So they may be knowing what is the name of that particular hair. Biology people may be knowing. So when light enters through that, it bends into different directions. So you see multiple bulbs, multiple candle flames, and among them, one central image is the brightest image, and whatever the images that you see on either sides will be less brighter images. So you will see a flame here, brightest flame here, next flame, next flame. Of course, it is not so clear as we have photograph here, right? It is not so clear as we have here. It is not so, because that is not a pure diffraction. In the sense, it is not a perfect diffraction, because we can't see that these hairs cannot diffract the light so nicely, but still they can do it. So you see multiple colors, multiple images. So thank God we see the light, we observe the objects by completely opening your eyelid, right? Otherwise, we would have seen three objects in front of us. Every object appears to be three. If you meet your friend, you can see three friends. If you just try to get a pen, you will see three pens. And if you purchase one mobile, you can see three mobiles. But that is a confusion, actually. Which mobile I will pick up from the table? If you put your hand, then the mobile will be somewhere else, because you see the multiple images. But such confusions don't occur, because when light, even the sun, the eye pupil is a very small gap, right? When light enters into your eyes, diffraction occurs, it produces multiple images. Actually, on the retina, multiple images are formed. Suppose you are looking into a star. You see, star is such a small object. Apparently, when it is seen, it's such a small object, and when light comes from the stars, it forms multiple images on your retina. Sir, but we don't see multiple stars. We see only one star, image of one star as a single star. It's the only simple thing. The multiple images created, secondary maxima, whatever the bright intensity on the sides of central maxima, they are so less brighter that you don't see them at all. That is the beauty of the diffraction. So when I hold a chalk in front of you, you see only one chalk. Why? Because you get the central maxima image, this image of the chalk. You don't see this and this image of the chalk. Why? They are so less intensive that you can't identify them at all. Its intensity is very, very less. Suppose the intensity of secondary maxima were also brighter, you could have seen many chalks in my hand, right? So that is not occurring. The secondary maxima, whatever you see, can you see small ups and downs here? Secondary maximas are so weak in intensity that your eyes may not be able to distinguish them at all when you see a single object. So thank God, the diffraction occurring in your eyes is not so much, right? You see the central maxima only. So what the image that you see when you see an object is the central maxima image. So you can see the diffraction in your day-to-day life also, but diffraction doesn't appear to be so effective in your day-to-day life. Thank God, otherwise we would have seen many bright images like this everywhere, but it is not seen. Okay, see, diffraction can be seen in many waves. This is a sea wave. You see, the sea waves are moving like this. I think there may be seashore somewhere here also. Sea waves are moving like this. How could they turn here? Because there is a small obstacle. This obstacle tries to stop these waves. When the waves are stopped, they turn like this and they bend like this. You see the direction of waves here? Direction, this is a photograph. Direction of waves here. And by the time they come to the edge, see the direction of waves here. Of course, here the wavelength is large. If you see the sea waves, measure the distance from one crest to another crest, average distance. In a sea wave, the average distance may be 1 meter, 2 meter. It may be in the form of meters because sea waves are very large waves and they are separated by a large distance. And this gap is enough to diffract them. So it bends, and see the direction here. This direction is like this. Here the direction is like this. That means waves bend. Yes, they bend, and they bend and enter here. This is one diffraction. Now you see here. This is a plane wavefront incident, Fraunhofer wavefront now. Fraunhofer diffraction. Plane wavefront is incident. And after passing through the slit, waves travel in this direction, waves travel in this direction, waves travel in this direction, in all directions. But diffracted waves are not very strong, and so only the direct waves are very strong. Okay, we'll see different types of diagrams. Yes, now whatever we have studied yesterday, we have to recap it. You know that when light, this is obstacle, when light falls through an obstacle, it undergoes diffraction and some set of waves. So this is an obstacle, this is a slit, and I don't see the other part of the slit. Here is a slit like this, and light waves from the different points of the slit will travel as secondary waves. When the primary wave front falls on the slit, every point on the edge of the slit will act like a source of secondary waves. They travel, and one set of waves travel straight. They produce the brightest image here. Of course, they don't have any path difference. So each and every wave meets here with the crest on crest. If all the waves meet here with crest and crest, then this will be the brightest point. So now let us see the waves which are diffracted, bent in some other direction. Of course, they are not as brighter as this one. I have given here bright lines because I want to discuss this, that's all. I don't want to discuss this one now. Now, the path difference between the wave traveling from here to here and this one, and the path difference between the waves traveling from here to here and here are 0 because there is no path difference. They meet constructively. Okay. Now, if they bend like this, what will be the situation? A wave starting from the top of the slit. For just understanding, I have drawn a waveform like this. It will travel, it will continue like this, and it will come here. The wave starting from here, it will say, sir, I have to travel a longer distance. My path is a little bit longer. And if I want to reach here, I have to travel longer distance. How much longer? You draw a perpendicular from here to here. This distance and this distance are same almost. But this is the extra distance which is traveled by this wave. So how much extra the wave which is starting from the bottom of the slit has to travel? I don't go for the path reference because already we have derived it. A sine theta, that is the path reference, right? If this angle is theta here, you know, remember it. If this is theta, then this extra path is A sine theta, where A is the width of the slit. And if you get sine theta here, opposite side divided by this hypotenuse, because this is 90 degree. And so A sine theta is equal to path reference, this one. So if A sine theta is equal to 1 lambda, what will be the condition here? But always you have to remember that we have considered only the wave starting from the top of the slit and a secondary wave starting from the bottom of the slit. We haven't seen any, or we haven't considered any wave which is traveling from in between parts of the slit. So that has to be considered. But for the time being, we will just discuss this one. If you observe this one, the crest of this falls on crest of this. But that is not the case because in between there are many waves. Divide the whole slit into two parts, upper half, lower half, exactly 2 halves. If this wave travels lesser distance and this wave travels extra distance 1 lambda, What about the extra distance traveled by the secondary wave, which is traveling from the midpoint of the slit? That is half lambda. You can see that this is half lambda, because this is 0 lambda. This is half lambda. This travels 1 lambda extra. This says, sir, I have to travel half lambda extra. Now, if this wave meets this wave, crest falls on trough by the time they meet here, then you will get destructive interference. Okay, sir, this and this have met and they have destroyed each other and they have produced dark fringes. What about the other waves starting from different points of the slits here? There is a wave starting from here, 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 anywhere. That is the same condition, because if you take it like this, take a wave starting just below this one, a wave starting from this, and it's just having a little bit more distance than this, very little more distance it has to travel, because it lags behind this wave a little bit. This wave has to travel a little bit more distance than this, but the crest of this doesn't exactly fall on the crest of this, isn't it? Just lagging behind. This blue colored wave is lagging behind this red colored wave. But you have a wave which can destroy this wave in the same distance below here. You find out a wave, because this wave is destroyed by this wave, right? What about this wave? Consider another wave which is traveling just below this one at the same depth. This and this, they will have their crest and trough falling exactly on each other. They destroy each other. So for every soldier here, there is a soldier here who will defeat him. So for a wave starting from here, there is a wave starting from here, which have a path difference of lambda by 2. For a wave starting from here, there is a wave starting from here, which have a path difference of lambda by 2. For all the waves starting from the upper half of the slit, there are waves on the lower half of the slit, which will cancel each other. Sir, if I consider another wave just below this here, there is a wave here. And for this wave, there is a wave here. So every wave will cancel. So upper half of the second, you have to write only one sentence in the exam. If the path difference between the waves starting from, secondary waves starting from the top of the slit and bottom of the slit is 1 lambda. If the path difference between the waves starting from the top of the slit and bottom of the slit is 1 lambda, then the path difference between the secondary wave starting from the top of the slit and the middle of the slit is half lambda. They will cancel each other. For every point on the upper half of the slit, there is a point on the lower half of the slit which will send the secondary waves and which will cancel each other with a path difference of lambda by 2. And this point will be a dark fringe. So if the path difference between the secondary wave starting from the top of the slit and bottom of the slit is 1 lambda, this will be a dark fringe. If it is 2 lambda, then again it is a dark fringe, because you divide the slit into 4 halves like this. And 1 half here will cancel the next half. 1 half here will cancel the next half. So you are not going to write all these explanations in the exam, okay? You need not worry. Just understand this, how it is happening. But you are going to write only very few sentences about this. A sin theta equal to n lambda is very important, that path difference. I mean, if it is 1 lambda, 2 lambda, 3 lambda, 4 lambda, you can divide the whole slit into even parts. The one even part will cancel the other even part. So the here you will get dark fringe. Okay. Now we will go to the other case. If the path difference is okay, that is the same one now. Yeah, this one and this is 1 lambda only. So this is with the this diagram. See how this is bright fringe and this is dark now. This is dark. So the brightness goes on. Sir, where is half lambda? If the path difference is half lambda, here itself it is half lambda. It will be somewhere here. It is neither bright nor dark. That's all. So if the path difference is 0 lambda, central bright fringe. If the path difference is 1 lambda, first dark fringe. And if the path difference is half lambda, somewhere here, either bright or dark. What about this next one? Next bright fringe, that is 1.5 lambda. If the path, so if A sin theta is equal to n lambda, then of course it will be a dark fringe. Yeah, this is okay. No, not this one. Yeah, here I have to go. Yes, if it is 1.5 lambda, if the path difference is 1.5 lambda, what is the condition? See, the wave starting from the top of the slit and the wave starting from the bottom of the slit, they have a path difference of 1.5 lambda. If you ask this wave after reaching here, it will say, sir, I have traveled extra distance, 1.5. What about this one? Sir, I didn't travel like that, 1.5 extra. I have traveled only from here and reached here. So if the path difference between the secondary waves starting from the top of the slit and bottom of the slit are 1.5 lambda, then divide the slit into 3 parts now. It becomes easier for explanation. Divide the whole slit into 1 part, 2 part, 3 parts. Now, if this is 1.5 lambda, a person starting from here, say he has to travel 52 steps. A person starting from here has to travel 53.5 steps, 1.5 more. Then what about a person starting from here? He has to travel half distance extra, 52 and a half steps, 53 steps, 53 and a half step. That's all. So the path difference between the wave starting from the top of the slit and here is half lambda. If they meet each other, they destroy. Path difference between the waves, secondary wave starting from here and here is 1 lambda. Here and here is 1.5 lambda. For all the waves starting from this part of the slit, they cancel this part, correct? What about this part? That survives. Or you can take it the other way. These waves were cancelled by these waves. This survives. So finally, you get a bright fringe here. But that brightness is not as bright as this one, because here every wave contributes to the brightness. Here all the secondary waves do not contribute to the brightness. Only few secondary waves contribute to the brightness. These produce dark fringe. They destroy each other. So if the path difference is 1.5 lambda, 2.5 lambda, 3.5 lambda, and so on, then the whole slit can be imagined to be divided into 3 parts. 2 parts, the waves, secondary waves starting from the neighboring 2 parts, they cancel each other. 1 part remains, and that 1 part produces bright spot here. But that brightness is not as much bright and as much width as the central maximum. Central maximum is brightest and widest. This will not be as much brighter as this one. So what is the condition for dark fringe? It is the path difference equal to 3 lambda by 2. 5 lambda by 2, n plus half lambda by 2, n plus half lambda, sorry. So if the path difference here, always you have to remember, what is the condition for constructive interference in diffraction? A sin theta is equal to n plus half lambda. What do you mean by that? That A sin theta is equal to n plus half lambda means it is the path difference between the waves starting from the top of the slit and bottom of the slit. That you must remember. What is the condition for production of dark fringe in a Young's diffraction pattern? The condition for the production of dark fringe is A sin theta equal to n lambda. What do you mean by that? It is the path difference between the wave starting from the top of the slit and bottom of the slit. That's all. Okay, so that you have to remember. This formula is very important. Understanding this is very important, not the explanation. So if you draw a graph of intensity here versus distance, you will find that intensity is maximum, less. This is secondary maxima. This is central maxima. This is minima. In minimas, you don't have primary minima, secondary minima. Dark fringes, you don't have numbers. Numbers in the sense for primary dark, secondary dark. Darks are all minimas, equally dark. But maximas, brightest fringes are not equally bright. So central maxima, secondary maxima, and all are secondary maximas. First secondary maxima, next secondary maxima, like that. Okay, so condition for maxima is A sin theta equal to n plus half lambda. Okay, shall we move? This we have seen. So this is one condition. Next is 5 lambda by 2. Okay, and these are all called order of the fringes. Again, you must know when in the problem you must know what do you mean by order of the fringe. Order of the fringe means, you see, this is n equal to 0 actually. This is n equal to 1. In A sin theta equal to n lambda, condition for dark fringe, this is n equal to 1. In A sin theta is equal to n plus half lambda, this is n equal to 1. N equal to 1 condition. First order fringe, second order fringe, and all. Okay. So now suppose you get bright and dark fringes like this. Suppose you are standing on the slit here at the position of the slit. If you are just observing the pattern here, in your eyes, how much angle is this central maximum is doing? This is the central maxima, isn't it? Sir, from where to where central maximum is extended? It starts from brightest point here up to the dark. Till the dark fringe, it is central maxima. Sir, if somebody asks you, how much is your space in your house, or how much is the area of your house in your where the house is built. You will say our house or our place extends from the left side compound of the other house to the right side compound of the other house, right side house. Suppose if your house is surrounded by other houses on all the sides, you need not build a compound, isn't it? Because all the others will build a compound and that will be the common compound for you. So what is the left compound of your left side neighbor and what is the right side compound of your right side neighbor? Till that you have your place, right, in your house. In the same way, where is the bright fringe? Bright fringe starts from first dark from here up to first dark from here. And this may not be as bright as central maximum. That means the center place, but it is brighter. So from here to here, it is a bright fringe. Now, if you look from here, this angle is called angular width of the central maximum. Actually, angular width of the central maximum is 2 theta. How much angle does it create when it is seen from the slit? For example, see, I will show the actual photograph. Suppose you put a laser from this point. That laser enters and without bending, it forms a brightest image. And some amount of laser will bend like this, and the bent diffracted laser will not be so stronger. So it forms less brighter image up to this. Now, can you see this central maxima? That is the brightest spot of the laser from here. When you see that brightest spot of the laser from here, how much angle that brightest spot of the laser forms in your eyes? That is called angular width. This is angular width. What is suppose you take a scale and measure this length, then it is called linear width. Linear width is 2x, angular width is 2 theta. This is 2 theta. So this is an important factor here in the problems and all. Only the thing is, problem is easy, but you must know what it is actually. So what is the angular width of the central maximum? If you want to, sir, if you want to know the angular width of the central maximum, what you are going to search? Suppose you are, if you are calculating how much area of space you have in your house, from where to where you have to move? You have to move from the left compound of your left side neighbor to the right compound of your right side neighbor, isn't it? Similarly, if you want to know how much length is the central maximum having, you should start from the upper dark fringe to lower dark fringe, till that is the brightest fringe. The central maximum extends from this dark n equal to 1 to this dark n equal to 1. Both are n equal to 1 on either sides. That means you have to, if you are finding the width of the central maximum bright fringe, you have to apply the condition for the dark fringe. If you want to find out what is the area of your place in your house, you have to go to the compound of your neighbor. Till that you have your house, right? Till that you have your space. Similarly, you go for the first dark fringe here, measure the distance, that is width of the central maximum 2x. Okay, so that is, and you have to apply the condition a sin theta is equal to 1 lambda. That is the width of the central maximum. So this formula, now what I am going to tell you is very simple, but it is very important. Sir, what is the angular width? How much angle it creates in your eyes? What is the linear width? The distance between the first minimas on either sides, first dark fringes on either sides. But you are finding the width of the central maximum. Even though you are finding the width of the central maximum, you are applying the condition for minimum, because up to minimum you have maximum bright area. Okay, so if a sin theta is equal to 1 lambda up to the first dark fringe, I am calculating only this part of the theta, then I can make it 2 theta. I am finding the angular width of the central maximum. So when you look into the central maximum from here, how much angle does it create in your eyes? That's what I am doing. If a sin theta equal to 1 lambda, and this theta is very, very small, and you know that angle of diffraction, you can't expect the laser beam to diffract by 90 degrees, 60 degrees like this. It diffracts by a very small angle. If theta is very small, what is this formula? A theta. Sin theta is almost equal to theta. So shall I write it as A theta? If theta is very small, then A theta is equal to 1 lambda. Is it correct? Because sin theta can be taken as almost theta. If A theta is equal to 1 lambda, what is theta? Theta is equal to lambda by A. This is the only simplest formula. But I want to make it very clear, what are you going to find out? These mathematical steps you can understand. What is this actually? It is the angular width of the central maximum. For example, if you are half closing your eyes and through the eyelash, if you are observing the bulb, you can see a middle bulb, brightest bulb, and less brighter bulbs on the either sides. How much angle that the first image of the bulb forms in your eyes? For example, if you are looking into the sun during sunset, if you take two rays of light from the extreme diametrically opposite points of the sun, brightest red colored sun, how much angle does they create on your eyes? That is called angular width. But this is half of the angular width. So theta is lambda by a. Suppose you are asked to find out what is the full angular width, 2 theta is equal to 2 lambda by a. That's what you can do. What is the linear width of this central maximum? How much distance this is spread? And you have to take a scale and you have to measure it. Or you can do one thing. Apply the arc length formula. L is equal to r theta. You know this, right? If an arc makes an length of x, and if these two lines at the center make an angle distance d, then how can you write x equal to d theta? Am I right? So shall I move find it out? Also, x equal to this x arc length is equal to, and the distance from the screen to the slit is, we will take it as d, as we have taken it in interference. X equal to d theta, and if x equal to d theta, you can substitute for theta, x equal to lambda d by a, because theta is lambda by a, lambda d by a. So this looks like very similar to that beta formula, right? Beta is equal to lambda d by small d, where that small d is the distance between the two slits there. We had two slits, but here it is the width of the slit, a. Very small slit. Here we have a single slit, which is an obstacle. So x equal to lambda d by a. If you want to know the full linear width, 2x you have to make, 2 lambda d by a. Looks very simple, but very, very important. You will forget this. You will forget the idea of finding out itself. You will forget what this is actually. You will feel that such things have not been done at all after once the college is started. But you have to take this very seriously, right? So I will explain in short now. So if you want to find out what is the angular width of the central maximum, how much angle does it create at the eye, take the half angular width. If this is theta, where is the first minima? Up to that we have central maxima. Apply a sin theta equal to n lambda, but n is 1, first minima, and theta is very small. A theta equal to 1 lambda, you have theta equal to lambda by a. And if you want to know the full width, 2 theta equal to 2 lambda by a. And this x linear width of the central maximum is equal to d theta, x equal to d theta, and if x equal to d theta, substitute for theta, d by lambda d by a. So for next, when we work out problems, this is very much needed. Okay, so this is a graphical representation of intensity versus distance. This is minima, this is minima, this is central maxima, brightest point here, and it is due to the superposition of many waves interfering with each other. And what else here? Yeah, this is the next maxima, which is much less brighter compared to this one, because you know all the waves don't contribute this brightness of this, so it is not as brighter as the central one. And another thing is the thing about diffraction. When you see some objects, you see some objects appear to be like this, blurred. You get the central maxima spot, and then the next maxima like this. Some I see some very less brighter images are seen. Now there is a rule. Suppose imagine that a vehicle, for example, a car is coming from a very long road which is almost straight, and say some 2 kilometers straight road, 2 or 3 kilometers straight road. A car is coming from a distant the other end of the road, and car is it is night, and the headlights of the car are switched on. Now when the car is very far away, you don't see two headlights. Two headlights appear to be merged together. Why it is so? Because light coming from each headlight will enter your eyes, and each headlight will produce its own diffraction pattern. You see, for example, one light coming from one object, one headlight, it will form the brightest image of headlight, next brighter image of headlight, next brighter image of headlight. But thank God that only this we see. These are so less brighter that we don't see them at all. Whereas here you see the diffraction is so effective that you can see the next brighter images also. And if it was seen like this, you would have been in a confusion. Which is a headlight and what is this scene and what is the problem here? So we see only the central fringe at all, only. We see only the central bright fringe. Okay. Now, as the car, in the beginning, you see only this much, you see, only one headlight and surrounded by some less brighter rings. As the car approaches closer to you, you feel that there are some difference between the headlights, and there are two lights appearing somewhere like this. And this is called unresolved condition. What do you mean by resolving? Resolving means showing separately. When you look into a mosquito, why can't you see the face of the mosquito very clearly? Can you show the lips, nose, and eyebrows? Eyebrow, isn't it? That name is eyebrow, right? Right. Eyebrows of a mosquito. Can you, if I give you a lipstick, can you put lipstick to the lips of mosquito? Impossible, because you can't see the lips of mosquito. Why, sir? Why can't I see the eyes of mosquito separately? And we can see the mosquito as a whole. You can see the legs of the mosquito, but you can't see the lips, nose, and forehead, eyebrows. Nothing we can see. Why? Because our eye has a capability, it has a limitation. It can show only certain distant objects as clearly separated. I can see two pens kept on my table separately, no problem. I can see two stars on the sky separately. I can see that, okay, no problem. I can see the edge of the board in the classroom separately. Okay, no problem. I can see the iron bars in my classroom window separately. Okay. But when you look into the iron bars of the window in your classroom, you can see them separately. But move away and away from the window. At a certain distance, you may not be able to see that iron bars of the window separately. They appear to be merged because your eyes may not be able to show them separately. That means only when the rays come and falls at a certain angle, then only you can see the object separately. So eye has a minimum angle at which it can show the two objects separately. And if that angle is less than certain range, you can't see them separately. That is the problem. When the car is very far away, the light coming from the headlight of the car make a very small angle at your eyes, and your eyes may not be able to show them separately. But when the car comes closer and closer to you, the angle at which the light from the two headlights fall on your eyes becomes more and more, because as the two headlights come closer to you, the angle becomes more and more. At one point, you feel that there are two headlights. But when the car is very close to you, you clearly can see the two headlights separated. Sir, what is that minimum angle for normal human being eye? 1 minute. If two objects, suppose you mark 2 points using a very sharp pen on your paper, 2 points. If those 2 points are separated in such a way that the light coming from the 2 points to your eyes makes an angle of 1 minute, you can see them separately. And if the 2 points are so close that if the light coming from the 2 points into your eyes make an angle less than 1 minute, you can't see them separately. They appear to be merged. In the same case happens in the case of mosquito. The lips of the mosquito and the eyebrows of the mosquito are so close that the light coming from those 2 points, when they enter your eyes, they are separated by an angle which is less than 1 minute, and our eye may not be able to show them separately. We can see the mosquito, we can't distinguish between its different parts. But a microscope can do it, right? That means a microscope and a telescope should have a resolving power. Even our eye has a resolving power, but it has a limit. There is a limit for the resolving power of eye. If you want to have a much high resolving power, you have to go for a microscope or a telescope, which will show them clearly separated. When you look through the microscope will produce an enlarged image of the mosquito, and it will show you the different parts of the mosquito clearly, or a virus or a bacteria, whatever it is. When you look into moon with your bare eyes, you don't see any craters, you don't see any ups and downs in the moon, because they are so close that they may not be able to form different images in your eyes. But when you look through the telescopes resolves it completely, it shows it separately. So every instrument, maybe a microscope, maybe a telescope, should have magnifying power at the same time resolving power. Of course, one thing I want to make it clear, these diagrams are not in your book, not in the syllabus, but I am taking this so that you can, when I explain something, some 100%, at least you can follow 60%. If I explain only 60%, you will understand only 30%. That is the problem. So I will explain more things. Even though you forget it, no problem. But you will understand that this is the fact. Now, when the car is far away, what is the problem, sir? Why our eyes were not able to show these two headlights separately? Only the simple logic is this one. Light from the first headlight enters into your eyes. It forms its own diffraction pattern. What do you mean by diffraction pattern of the first headlight entering into your eyes? First headlight will form the central maxima and next minimas, right? That means less brighter images of the headlight, next less brighter, central brighter, and all. What about the other headlight? It will also form its own central bright fringe and less brighter other fringes. Now, the question is, what happens here is, this is unresolved condition. What do you mean by unresolved? The two objects are seen as a single object, not resolved. Why it is so? Because you see, the central maximas of the two images are overlapping on each other, and our eye feels that it is a single object, only single maxima. The central maxima of one headlight, the central maxima of another headlight, you know what is central maxima? The brightest central fringe. They are formed so close that your eye may not be able to distinguish them. So you feel that there is a single headlight. But as the car approaches closer and closer and closer towards you, the two central maximas goes away and away and away. And when do you see that the two objects are separate, just separate? What do you mean by just separate? You get the feeling that there should be two headlights there. It is not a single headlight. There should be something separates headlights. Something is seen here, just resolved. Not very clear. So this is called just resolved condition. This is called unresolved condition. What do you mean by unresolved condition? Unresolved condition is one where the central maxima of one headlight or one pattern and the central maxima of other pattern are so close that central maxima of one pattern falls within the minimum of the other pattern. What do you mean by that? This pattern will have its brightest light and dark and another brighter place here. Within the within the dark of this, we have the central maximum of the other. In short, if I can say, if the two lights come closer and closer, or if they are very far away, the central maximum of the two patterns are overlapping. That's all. They are overlapping. So you can't distinguish. You see that there is a single intensity here. But as the car approaches to you, the central maximas get separated. When the central maximum of one exactly falls on the first minimum of the other, you feel that there are two objects, just resolved. You see the minimum of this one, the dark fringe of this one is here, right? Here is the maximum of the other one. What about here now? The central maximum of this one is here. Here is the minimum of the other. So if the central maximum of one falls just on the first minimum of the other, you see them just resolved. And when the car approaches still closer to you, they move away. Now you see the central maximas well separated. They fall separately here and there. You can distinguish well resolved, just resolved, unresolved. This is how we analyze it. I think it's getting time and better we stop it. We will slowly move because these things are very, very new things to you, just imagination. And once it is clear, of course, I am very sure that it is not 100% clear to you because it is like that. Even when I was a student, I didn't understand all these things at all. I started understanding it, and only when I started reading myself in my PG classes. That is the truth. I can say that truth very, without any fear. But still, you can have an imagination that it is so and so. Okay, as far as possible, you try to understand. And after, when you come to college, we will discuss it again. If you come to the department, we can discuss it and we can show you in many ways. But now you are at some place. I am at another place. I can't explain. And I am showing all the hands and all everything here, but you can't see that. But still, we can follow something here. Now we will see how to apply this in a microscope, telescope, and all. Right? That we will do it in the next class. Then once you complete this, then of course you can pick it up. Polarization is very easy. You can understand it very clearly. This is a little bit like a hurdle. You can't go very fast. But one thing is, as far as exam is concerned, The whole question is concentrated in interference. What is the fringe width? Derive an expression. What are Huygens wave fronts? Define, write the features. Only that questions, and problem on fringe width, not on diffraction. On diffraction, you may get 1 mark question, but still I am interested to explain it. Those who can listen it, but those who don't understand, don't be in a fear. Just simply leave it. No problem at all. But if you can understand, it's well and good. So we will meet in the next class. Thanks for watching, because I have been just um, explaining and explaining and explaining. I don't know whether some of you may be sleeping now, but still I want to do that. At least 1 or 2 students, I want to make them very clear about this, at least up to certain extent. Okay, you will start liking this chapter once you go to polarization. That is very easy. Don't worry about this. Okay, we will meet in the next class. Till then, take care, and thanks for watching. Namaste.